You're live.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Free Assange Vigil. My name is Steve Poikinen. I am joined this morning by all of our co-hosts, Andrew Smith, Misty Winston, and Kendrick Christian. We are also joined by the full UK street team who's out doing a night action right now, and I can't wait to get into the conversation with those folks. But real quick, let me run through the numbers as they stand for November 28th, 2020. This marks 3,640 days of illegal and arbitrary detention for Julian Assange, 595 days since the WikiLeaks founder was trafficked from the Ecuadorian embassy after being sold to the United Kingdom for a $4.2 billion IMF loan. 37 days remain until Vanessa Breitzer, concierge of the U.S. State Department, reads her decision in the rendition hearing of Julian Assange, which will take place on January 4th, 2021. And Action for Assange is currently crowdfunding to be in Washington, D.C. to hold events over the 3rd and 4th to mark this occasion. We'll get to that more shortly. Today is 1,264 days of federal incarceration for Reality Winner. And it's still making her the longest serving in a prison whistleblower in American history. On a positive note, Chelsea Manning has been free for 251 days. She streams on Twitch Thursday through Friday from 7 to 11 Eastern. And today marks 11 days in a halfway house for Jeremy Hammond. We of course, if you guys remember, back in February, we went to the Alexandria Detention Center where Jeremy and Chelsea were being housed illegally. We had a hell of a day's action at that facility. We were having a little bit of a chat about exactly what halfway houses were before we went on the air just now. We can get into some of that later if you want to, but my hope is Jeremy Hammond is the hell away from that place as soon as humanly possible, because halfway houses are not where it's at. With that, though, I will kick it over to my co-host Andrew Smith to let you know about our GoFundMe, and then we'll bring in the guests.
Yeah, so we have our GoFundMe set up for January. It'll be January 3rd and 4th. And this is to be outside of the British Embassy during the time that the judge is going to bring forth her ruling on Julian's rendition hearing. We're planning events all day the 3rd, the 4th. We have our GoFundMe up. We're waiting on hearing from the the DC police and the Secret Services about particulars about protesting after midnight out in Washington. But I got a phone call from them the other day. They said everything should be good. So we just have to wait for our paperwork to get approved from them, basically. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to having everybody join us. I already went through and put the links into chat for everybody for that GoFundMe too. How are you today, Kendra?
I'm good. I was just wondering if you guys had, because we'll be, doing something in Denver, so I probably won't be able to join you in DC. And I'm wondering if you guys are going to do any midnight type actions at the DOJ.
Andrew wants to, and I'm trying to talk some sense into him. Like it's basic, like it's I don't. I've been made California soft. I'm gonna put it that way. I did like almost 20 years on the relative coast here. I was just bitching about frost on the ground. I woke up and it was the first sub 30 morning that we've had, and I did not move from Indiana or Colorado, for that matter, to California to wake up to a sub 30 degree morning unless I'm going snowboarding. I haven't been able to do that in about 14 years. So there's absolutely no reason that I should experience this level of discomfort first thing off. So that is one of the myriad reasons why I cannot wait to get out of this freaking state. And with that, I would love to bring in our guests live in London. We're joined by Alison, Mason, and company. and this is gonna be a whole like over average sized bag of fun.
Hey
We
guys,
weighed
how
the
you
sack of
going?
fun out a little bit heavy for you today, guys. What's up, Allie? How you doing?
I'm awesome. Yeah, we're having a good time here. How you guys doing? All right, in America.
We're
How
doing
you
great.
doing in America?
Can
we
you tell us where you are?
We are in Trafalgar Square. There's a great big column here with the Nelson, the commander of the naval fleet, that bastard. And we're outside the National Portrait Gallery doing candles for Assange. So far so good. We haven't been bashed up by cops tonight.
That's always a
Still
good start.
time though.
Always a good
Yeah.
start.
Yeah, you betcha. But
How many people do you think are there right now?
we've got about 20, 30 in our group here now, which is good. Because it's flipping freezing cold. I think it's like about 7 degrees or 8 degrees or something.
Oh my God.
And, earlier we were at Belmarsh, some of us, and it was like so foggy and creepy, really creepy foggy. And when they came out, the prison guards come out every time we go there, because we go right up to the gates and shout and do speeches and stuff. And they were actually quite nice today, but the governor walked in as we were going away. So have a chance to talk to him, but he did clock us. Governor Rob Davis did clock us. Yeah. And shout out to Julianne and heaps of beeps and toots on the road, handing out pamphlets. Then there was a big day here in the city of anti-lockdown protests, and the police are very heavy now, and they chase people around the city from King's Cross to Hyde Park and back again, kind of thing, trying to disperse people away. But some of the crew here tonight were there, because I went to Belmarsh, I couldn't do that one. But we've got Mario, who's here, and he can fill you in on what it was like today if you want.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah, here's Mario.
Hello.
Hi, Mario.
Hey, Mario.
Oh yes, I've been supporting for a long time the Assange unfair trial. I come from Colombia, and I representing the Latin American people. We are really, really, really upset and concerned about what's going to happen. We know this is a terrible infamy. It's the worst misjudging ever I've seen in my life. And we regret to see that there are not enough people, but hopefully the pressure from all over the world, although they are not present, they are supporting us. And we got to keep steady, united for the cause of the freedom of Julian Assange. Big heart to all the people, and let's keep going.
Well said.
Yeah, we've been trying to communicate for quite a while now that Julian Assange's case represents everybody's ability to continue with their activism and continue with their advocacy, because if you don't have the ability to communicate what it is you're advocating for, if there isn't a press or a media that's representative of regular people, your activism is doomed. Your cause won't be able to succeed. You won't be able to get any of your initiatives off of the ground. And it's been one of the bigger hurdles that we've experienced over the last few years. But I think now, as people are becoming more and more aware of how their governments are criminalizing protest, how their governments are criminalizing speech, how their governments are criminalizing opinions that fall outside of the acceptable parameters of debate, that they're starting to hear what we've been saying and get on board now. And I have a little bit of hope that going forward, we'll be able to rally more people than we ever have before, or at least have in a decade, when we had, tens of thousands of people in the streets of the U.S. for SOPA and PIPA or Occupy or those events. We're coming back to that point now, Mario, and I want to know if there's a semblance of that in the UK as well.
That's great. That's great to hear that, because that's what we got to keep doing. It's, until we get Assange, I got big faith that Julian Assange is gonna be free, and we got to keep steady on this. I'm gonna pass you to some of the colleagues who are here joining us.
And
Great to see you, and all the best.
Thank you, Mario.
Thank you.
I'm a big fan of your cartoon.
Mario.
Free! Free! Julian Assange! Free!
Free! Julian Assange!
Free! Free! Julian Assange! Free! Free! Julian Assange!
It makes my cold dead heart warm.
Me
know.
too. That's the answer in the UK. Do you hear that, Andrew?
That's wonderful.
Yep.
So fun.
So could you talk a little bit?
Oh, go ahead,
Steve.
man. Go ahead.
There is only one decision!
They're going again.
There is only one decision!
No extradition!
There is only one decision!
No extradition!
There is only one decision! No extradition! Free! Free! Julian Assange!
Man.
Free! Free! Julian Assange!
You can't shut this mob up.
That's good. No
That's
complaints.
good. Yeah, that's good. We've been telling people to get loud, so there you go.
It's so great to see your group out there. I mean, it's wonderful all the time. That many people committed, and I don't know.
Awesome. So, yeah. Do you want to know what else has been going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you had any issues with the cops today? I know we were talking about it before we started, but has there been any police, presence or threats today?
Not for Julian, not with this campaign, because the big day of marching was on for Freedom Unite UK in town. So the cops were chasing all them around. I mean, there is an amazing number of vans driving around everywhere. So what we've done is we've opted to come to a nice candles vigil we used to do anyway in Trafalgar Square, and revert back to that as a nice, gentle, calm, no big banners, and just engagement one-to-one with people in the square. They're walking through, we're giving them leaflets, we're talking about Julian, we've got the candles, Free Julian Assange, we've got the little projector going, so people are curious about that. We've got free hot chocolate, coffee and tea, and some cookies, as you call them in the States. So we've gotten away with it today. So far, so good. And no cops came to Belmarsh. They rarely do, actually. We get away with it at Belmarsh. And the public out there are amazing, okay? A big black population, but everyone is really, really aware of who Julian Assange is and what the issues are. We get so many toots on the horns and support from the traffic stops that we do. Eric's always out there giving out his flyers. And Missy, I noticed that you said that, you want to marry him. Well,
I
he
do.
did say the other day that he was thinking of becoming a Muslim so that he could have 4 wives. He might increase it to 5. So it was me, Wendy, Phil, and Sandra. So you could be the 5th, yeah? We have to build a freedom community, and Eric could be right, the patriarch.
Is he gonna have a white robe, and will his wives have like all a monochrome robe of a matching color?
No, Eric's not like that. Eric's freedom. Let's say hello to Eric. Eric, you're on again, mate.
Eric! Hi!
Saying hello to you. Which lady is this?
Hello!
Misty again.
Yes.
Hello, Misty. How are you?
This is making my day.
Exactly what you have to say. This is important what I have to say. Anybody, you're a good person for wanting to talk to me, not because of what you might think I am, but because I'm part of a wonderful group So okay, we're all equal. So we're all very fine people, and I'm angry with him. No, miss, stay out of this. No,
Yes.
say that. No, say that later. Yes, say that. Okay. So what do you want to know, Missy? I think you're not speaking to me because I'm not hearing you.
He's all
You're
yours.
me. Yeah.
Hello. It's so good to meet you. You're my favorite.
I mean, the point is that actions speak louder than words, although words are important too.
He said it's so good to meet you.
So you'd like to meet me?
Yes.
Yeah, well, okay, well, come over here. I mean, we're here. We can't get out. Sometimes we can't move freely in London because we might get arrested.
We should smuggle her in, couldn't we?
Struggle. Come and see Julian Assange in prison, and maybe you'll see some of us there too. As I think perhaps not. And what we want is not to join him in prison, but for him to join us in freedom, out of prison. I'm angry with him. Yeah, well, you'll be angry somewhere else. Okay, that's all. There's a bit of distraction. Very good person, but he's changing the subject. He's interested in the personal. I'm telling him to be interested in the political, because this is what it means. But you know the word political, where it comes from, like metropolis. So it's pertaining to the rights of people. It's not necessarily a political party and who's in there and so forth. Although naturally we would support a political party would be very progressive, I mean, in this country, we missed our last chance with Jeremy Corbyn, and these people who are doing something different from what the Labour Party done traditionally. Labour Party and the Tory Party, the Conservative Party were called two peas in a pod, Tweedledum and Tweedledee. They're very much alike to Blair. You certainly saw that, Blair and Bush, I mean, would have been great buddies, but same with Jeremy Corbyn, he's got something different. Somebody is for socialism. Socialism is a better system than capitalism. This sounds un-American. That's because these people who use power in the United States are the real un-Americans. You know about McCarthyism, and they took the position that the greatest of patriots of the United States, but also who are internationalists, were in favor of equality between nations. Whereas, of course, the view of those who called us, who are internationalists, terrorists, they called us, of course, communists, but again, socialism, communism, yes, this is a system that's better, not because we want any foreign power to occupy the United States, but because we want the American people to come into their own. And of course, socialism is true democracy for the working class, for the majority.
Eric was there in the McCarthy era in America. He was there.
I was there, sure. I was also considered un-American. Because I said I supported people like the great Paul Robeson. I hope you've heard of him.
That's his hero, Paul Robeson.
He's the most beautiful voice I've ever heard, and the person whose example should be followed. You can study his history. There's one book to get called Here I Stand. Get that book, and he'll tell you where he stands politically. He'll go into his personal life just enough so you'll understand.
So, Missy, you got to get your ticket soon, all right?
Okay.
I'm there.
And there's so much more to say, Missy, but I wish you could have an exchange. I could hear you speak because you're just as smart as I am, that's smarter. And anyway, let's assume people are equal.
Yeah, you got a new fan, Missy. Number one fan.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Missy. All the best to you. Okay, keep well.
Thank you.
Okay, it takes a good person to know other good people like us. We have no false modesty, no false pride, but we all fine people, and so are you.
We're about love, aren't we, Eric?
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
all about love, baby. So that was a mouthful.
Just made my whole week, you guys. Seriously.
And Missy
You'll never
had a
forget you.
football game canceled on her yesterday, so she was extra down going into this, and it's early
made up for
Christmas
it.
here on the Free Assange.
Not made up for it. It's like
Yeah.
Christmas and my birthday all at once.
Get Eric on Facts on the Ground, Missy.
I know, right? That would be amazing.
I just on the subject of McCarthyism, I am far too young to have experienced it in the 50s. I'm really not, but I wasn't around in the 50s. I wasn't. It took a couple of decades before I came around. But we've been living in modern day McCarthyism for at least 4 years now, and holy crap, is it ridiculous!
Yeah.
Even before Russia was the specter of doom in the West, again, we had Michelle Bachmann in like 2014 or 2012. If anyone remembers her, she was a batshit crazy representative from Wisconsin, I believe, or Minnesota,
I think.
and she suggested a renewal of the House Un-American Activities Committee in like, I want to say about 2014. Like she was dead serious that we needed another House Un-American Activities Committee. And fast forward a couple of years, it's her supposed political opposites in the Democratic Party who are screaming the exact same thing. And they were mocking Bachmann for being ridiculous while picking up on her ideas and running with them. It's a fucking cartoon.
Yeah, I would really like to see a psychologist report on these wankers that are in power now. What is wrong with them everywhere in the world? That the most absolute wankers of all the people that could be in power.
Pure psychopaths, I think.
The Parliamentary Committee on Anti-Semitism just sent Craig Murray a letter. Did you see this, Allie?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, good Lord! I'll go grab it here real quick.
Yeah, because my contention.
Well, it's freaking hysterical. There we go. So let me pull this up on the share screen real quick, and hopefully you guys in the UK will be able to see this too, because Craig Murray once again finding himself in the hot seat. So here's the letter from the All Parliamentary Group Against Anti-Semitism. Spelling his name wrong. And the complaint is because when someone asked Alexa a question, Craig Murray's blog came up. Alexa cited Craig Murray's blog for the question, is Israel guilty of war crimes? Alexa said, according to craigmurray.org, ethnic cleansing on a massive scale and serial human rights abuse, including war crimes, yes, Israel is guilty of these atrocities. So now they're calling Craig Murray down to Parliament to have him questioned about his apparent anti-Semitism for stating a verifiable fact about the state of Israel.
Incredible. I would like, that's just like absolutely flooring, calling him to Parliament. Like, wow. I have with me Ellie, and she has been a subject of one of these letters as well in her life with the Labour Party. So this is Ellie.
I don't know if you can see, but I've got a Free Palestine badge on. I'm wearing a keffiyeh, a Palestinian scarf, because it's one of the causes I feel very strongly about. I think a very terrible, evil crime has been committed for a long time. So I was active, still am, and spoke out about it. But yeah, the lobby got on to me. I knew Jeremy Corbyn in the past, and before he was leader. And they could prove that he and I had, corresponded and tried to make the world a better, fairer place, all kinds of wicked stuff like that. Can't do that. And then so after he became leader, because, I was nobody, nothing really, but because they could prove that I was, a connection to him, they know if they smear someone else, and it all links together, and so it spreads. So they came for me, and I had a letter, a really horrendous letter from the CAA, which is the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. It sounds very charming, very, very lovely, very admirable, but they're none of those things. They're very frightening people, and they're obsessives. And so they got onto me, they came to me, and they sent a letter, horrendous letter, and it was handed. One day I went to my front door, someone was delivering a letter. I thought it was like, a man on a bike, from a delivery company. So I took the letter, which was that, and I said to him, do you want a signature? And he said, no, it's all right. He was just a young guy in Lycra, you know. He said, no, we don't need a signature. And at that moment, I knew that was like a signal. It was like saying, we know where you are, we know your address, you know, we can come to you anytime. Because he wasn't a delivery guy, it was a guy from this outfit. And, you know, I opened up the letter, and it was the most frightening thing. Well, actually, worse things have happened since. So, but until that point, the most frightening thing that had happened really in my life. It's very sinister. And Craig is brave. Craig is a good and brave man. And, you know, these people are scary people. They're not good people.
Well, Craig Murray had his access to the National Union of Journalism revoked after he was found in contempt of court for breadcrumbing about a case that the mainstream media over in the UK had talked about 1 million times more than Craig did.
Very well, I heard National Union of Journalists.
And in those court documents,
about Craig.
About Craig. And in
about Craig.
And in the court documents that were filed about Craig breadcrumbing, they specifically cited his work in Julian's case as to why he was such a prolific journalist. And that was used to essentially eject him from the cloud video platform because he didn't have access to it. So he was daft enough to find a way to still be able to get into the courtroom in the public gallery to be able to continue to do court reporting. And then now that that has happened, they released this letter to him saying like, hey, you have to appear before us to answer these questions about, again, your journalism. So it's what's happening to Craig, I think, can be seen similar to what's happening to Julian, because it's a direct assault because of the work that he is doing.
Well, yeah, Craig's been facing vilification and assault and unfairness in all kinds of ways, hasn't he, for a very long time now, because Craig is an astonishingly brave man and he has a conscience and compassion, and he speaks nothing but the truth ever. And, you know, there aren't many establishment figures and ex-ambassadors who have his kind of courage and truthfulness. And, you know, they're determined to make him pay the price for it. I'm astonished by his courage and his commitment and his, you know, unwavering support of goodness and truth. He's an amazing, amazing man. I also slightly know his wife. You know, I mean, they all have a terrible time. It's frightening, all these letters and threats to, you know, take them to court and seize their assets or whatever. I mean, it affects his whole family. It's shocking and unforgivable and absolutely terrifying what they all go through. It really is. What can I say?
And it's well within the bounds of likelihood that the 2-year sentence that he faces for this contempt of court charge may actually be the judgment given. We'll be up at the court on in January, the 22nd, to support Craig as well, because he is an amazing person. To meet him, to know him, you know, very down-to-earth person. And when I read Boiled Alive, and that was what triggered him to, you know, complain through his ambassadorship to the government, and what came down after that. A man was boiled alive, you know, and they made Craig the victim.
Yeah, they didn't want to know. The British government never want to know about cruel horrors because, you know, it might actually stop them, you know, getting some financial deals going or whatever. I mean, it's when you finally realise that it is all about money and human rights and suffering, just don't come into it. It's a shocking moment. I actually was today, earlier in the day, with another friend of mine who was there are 2 former British ambassadors who are astonishing truth tellers, and the other one is called Peter Ford. He was the British ambassador to Damascus and another to Bahrain. But I was with him today.
I really want to talk to him, by the way.
He's a good friend. Well, we can sort that out. He's a good friend of mine, and he is the bravest of the brave also. And he speaks truth to power. And these guys who really got to the top of that pole, and you know, they know how to speak. They know how to, you know, they're smart and intelligent and charming, and not many of them actually use those talents for the good. But Craig and Peter both have.
Well, and Peter Ford Peter
need
Ford
more.
got stitched up by the BBC4 in that series that they're doing on the White Helmets. I talked to Vanessa Beeley pretty much.
Yeah.
I talk to Vanessa
Absolutely
pretty much every day, and she fills me in on what BBC4 said the previous night, and it's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I'm very interested to talk to Peter Ford because we had Vanessa and we had Eva Bartlett on the Vigil here to discuss this, and Peter came up quite a few times from both of them as someone we needed to reach out to and speak to.
Well, he'll definitely speak to you. I can certainly put you in touch with him and make that happen.
That would be fantastic.
But on that thing with Chloe Hadjimatheou and her nonsense.
God, I can't believe you got that name right.
He was so brilliant. He was so brilliant. He just sort of, you'd hear the smile in his voice, and he just said, well, we mustn't be naive about these things, must we? He said a lot more than that, but the way he said it, we mustn't be naive, because people, the authorities say things for a reason. Never take anything at face value. He's a very smart guy.
Not that it really matters, Steve, but let's have a little pronunciation lesson on Chloe Hadjimatheou's name. Say
I mean,
again.
I got it now, but just sight reading it, I'd have been like, Chloe, yeah, fucking Chloe. Hadjimatheou.
She should be ashamed of herself anyway. That's all I've got to say about her.
Hadjimatheou? Is that right?
Behind the tree. Shocking.
I do actually kind of care about this.
That series about the White Helmets, it's only just been on the radio in the last couple of weeks, was the most blatant propaganda. I mean, God knows the BBC is now absolutely full of propaganda. Probably always was, but now more than ever. But I've never heard worse than that one. It was astonishing.
Well, and Vanessa has been exposing the BBC for working in tandem with Al-Nusra and a couple of Al-Qaeda affiliated front groups.
The establishment are working with Al-Nusra. I mean, the BBC are the state mouthpiece. We know this now.
Yeah, and the BBC doesn't have to have a little notification on social media that says this outlet is controlled by the British government. But our friend Lee Camp, who has a show in Washington, D.C., that is hosted by RT.
I actually live next to the BBC. I live 2 minutes walk from Broadcasting House. And
how do you not just dump a bag of poo on their doorstep every day?
I just want to send poison arrows across at them. They are shameful. They are shameful.
I want to rock their root.
Shameful.
I would go around my neighborhood collecting dog poo and just leave a little bag on their doorstep every morning.
I do metaphorically every moment of the day.
We did do a protest there a few weeks back. We had to wait to take our turn because there was an anti-pedophile group there on before us. So you have to actually wait your turn to do your protest outside the BBC.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Every decent cause in this country is queuing up to demonstrate outside that dreadful. I have no words.
Man, every time we've been to the Washington Post, it's just been us.
Yeah, the Guardian's usually just us as well here. We go to the Guardian. A couple of us went the other day to the Guardian.
Yesterday marked the 2-year anniversary of that absolute shit smear that Luke Harding put out about Paul Manafort.
Luke Harding. Oh,
that is the reaction everyone
Can I just tell you something?
Big
About the Guardian. We noticed when we were up there the other week, they used to have a great big sign up saying Observer, Guardian, nothing, gone. They're ashamed of themselves now. There's no wording on the building at all.
Oh, that's wonderful. Does it act like, was it replaced with a plaque that says MI6 or GCHQ on it?
Good idea.
Yeah.
Good idea. Oh, talking of GCHQ, if ever you want to have a chat with a really, really bright woman called Catherine Gunn, who was the
oh
GCHQ,
my God, yes.
She's a good friend too. She'll talk to you. She's good. She's good.
I would love that. Catherine Gunn's a goddamn hero.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
That's
It's like
amazing.
it's like Christmas for Steve here.
I know,
Jesus,
right?
it really is, man. You have no idea. And I don't even.
Hey, I told you I'd bring the guest. I told you I'd bring the guest to you.
You have never steered me wrong, Allie. Never once.
As you know, her eyes are well open now. Oh boy. Oh, they are.
I bet.
I'm gonna go now. I've got to go somewhere.
Thank you so much.
I've hours and hours marching around these streets. But does this happen often? I'll do it. I'll talk to you another time as well. Yeah.
We do this every Saturday where we can get UK guests on. We do it Tuesday too, but it's at like 4 o'clock in the morning where you are.
Alison can put me in touch. I'd love to.
Absolutely.
With them, so yeah. I'm Ellie, so be in touch.
Yeah.
Good to meet you, Ellie.
That's amazing.
Steve's damn right giddy at this point.
I know. Allie is delivering the goods. She got me Eric, and now she's getting Steve like his Christmas present. Like she's on a roll.
Yeah, two international guests lined up.
No, dude. Hey, look, I've been wanting to interview Peter Ford for a while now, and actually Nessa's I've been talking to her about it, but she's overwhelmed at the moment.
I bet.
But yeah, that'd be great. That would be fantastic.
Awesome. No worries.
Yeah.
Look at Steve. Look at Steve. Look at him.
I told you he's fucking giddy. I wasn't joking.
He looks like a little boy.
Mind you, Nikki, I think Eric's in love with you.
Hey, look, man, I really, I don't smile for undark purposes all that often. So we're just gonna take this, man. This doesn't involve gallows humor. I'm calling it a win.
I can't wait to get a screenshot of your little giddy face. I'm so excited.
Right? Who knew something this haggard and grisly could turn instantly boyish?
I knew, Steve. I knew.
Josh did. Josh knew.
Sleepy did. Josh knew. That's funny.
How you going?
Hey, Allie, what is up with the new lockdown on protesting measures coming out of the UK? Why, I saw a bit on Twitter, I think Thursday or Friday, where some new measures have been put forth, and I'll try and find the tweet again. Because I think we're both in it.
On Tuesday in Parliament, they're going to consider these new laws designed around Extinction Rebellion's type of protest, where they've, converged on a bridge and blocked traffic, or locked on to various things with the, the locked U-bots. And so these two laws will specify that instead of a serious risk to danger, a serious danger to normal going of traffic or whatever, they're changing it to a significant, the wording to significant, which means it could conclude anybody, couldn't it? It's up to interpretation. And the other element to it is the change will be that they will do stop and frisk search laws. So pat you down in case you're carrying U-bolts or whatever, or lock on, stuff like that. They're the two elements, but it's serious because, it just gives them more powers to stop anyone and search them, and also to call anything a significant risk for safety.
Yeah,
I don't understand
I found it. I'm going to pull it up here real quick. What the hell just happened? Oh, wow. My computer decided to pick this moment to freeze. That's awesome.
Oh,
Never mind.
They're not tracking the power grid, are they?
Your video's still fine.
Wow. That is frozen. Never mind me.
Andrew, you had a question, didn't you?
No, I was just going to say the UK rolling out a public stop and frisk law in response to a group that usually does naked protests is pretty intense to me.
Yeah, it is. The mood has significantly changed here. Now, if we throw back to maybe 3 weeks ago when I was on at the end of it, Vanessa and Eva on, and I came in on again, and I said, the cops just, they've got little notebooks. They don't know what laws they're sort of citing, but they casually sort of, kerfuffle around with their notebooks. Well, it's changed. In the last few weeks, you can notice that they've had this special training. I can't remember the name of it now. It's got a name for it. It's a code name. Anyway, they've all done it, and they're violent now. they'll throw you to the ground as soon as look at you. And yeah, it's definitely changed. The territorial squad is out more. You know, that's a super spy trained kind of squad of the police that come out for terrorism and things like that. And they'll be there all the time. And you know, today in town, when I was speaking about the protests, the anti-lockdown protests that were on, I had various reports of, you know, 1,000 to 400 to 500. You know, so we're talking about small numbers in London, basically because the police were chasing them from one venue to another, around and around, splitting up the groups. So there was no chance for people to mass. And of course, we need mass numbers, you know, to stop the tyranny. Anti-tyranny needs like everybody to come out. And we haven't got that because they've changed these policing measures. And we don't even really know that when the lockdown ends on December the 2nd, next Tuesday, whether they've introduced a new tier system for various parts of Britain. So you don't even know what tier you're in, really, you know, unless you watch TV or, you know, I don't know how you find out this stuff. Boris is buffering on with shit, you know, and you don't understand anything that he says. You know, how are people to know, you know, if it's business is open, if it's, you know, and whether on Tuesday they'll say, right, as Charles Walker, the MP, was fuming, I don't know if you saw the footage of him, a woman last week was arrested really roughly by the police. She was carried spread eagled and thrown into a police van from what, one holding on each arm and leg and chucked into a van. He witnessed it from his window in the House of Commons and came down from his office and stood by the van while she was being arrested saying, "This is an outrage. This isn't, you know, that woman has a fundamental right to protest. You know, I am outraged by this." Then he went into Parliament and said the same thing and said to the Speaker, "Bring Priti Patel and Boris Johnson to this House now and get them to explain themselves what they're up to Parliament, what they're up to with these new lockdown laws and anti-protest laws." He was fuming. So there is some sort of rearguard action in the Tory party itself against, you know, taking away the right to protest from people. And
I want to, if we can, since it looks like my computer's half-ass behaving, if we can go through just a little bit of what's in this, because the name of it, the Protection of the Police and Public Bill that they've got ahead of this is just, and we use the word too much, but I mean, it is incredibly freaking Orwellian. Amending Section 14 of the Public Order Act that gives police the power to impose conditions of a static assembly. So it is more like powers aimed at processions. This is the Extinction Rebellion stuff, where you can stop a demonstration from moving or entering a specific place. Change the wording of the powers to impose conditions on protests so that they are no longer for serious disruption to the life of the community, but for significant disruption. So they're muddying the terminology to make their abuse of power more broad. The government intends to introduce new grounds for using stop and search to prevent significant disruption, which could involve searches for items that protesters could potentially use for direct action or civil disobedience, like carabiners, straight up carabiners. Because everyone knows how dangerous a tiny piece of climbing equipment can be.
You don't remember the climber strike, Steve? Where everyone took their carabiners and clicked them outside, and it was super annoying, so they had to steal them all from everyone and write hyper draconian law.
Yeah, I missed that.
Yeah, so did I. This is the most fucked government policy I think I've ever heard. This is literally just going a step almost beyond stop and frisk at this point, because they just have to assume you are a political dissident, and then they can search you for whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, if you look like you're on your way to a protest, whether you are or not, and this is where London, being the most surveilled city on the planet, comes into play as well, because they'll know ahead of time if you're actually headed to a protest, and if they decide that you are marked as a troubled, you know, a potential troublemaker, then they'll have the legal authority to stop you and search you. And the last time that happened to me, they found drugs in my pocket that weren't there until they started searching me.
Yeah.
Yep. And I can imagine that that's not going to be too different for the UK. We saw leading up to the first round of Julian's trial in February, they legalized facial recognition in London. We know, because we've talked about it a million times, that the Five Eyes nations operate as essentially an escalation system, where they started in New Zealand and Australia, and then it moves to the UK, Canada, and then to the US for Orwellian draconian laws. It's essentially the beta test. And we've passed the point where we've seen Australians get arrested from social media posts where they say, yes, I'm going to attend this event. And whether they go or not, they're getting put in jail. And you couple that with the extreme level of surveillance in downtown London and the UK in general, and you have literal SWAT teams that'll show up at your house just for saying you're interested in a certain topic at this point, from the way that these laws sound.
Well, exactly. And I think too that it's really, I mean, it's gotten so ridiculous to the point that police officers and this power that's being given, I mean, they are going to have some serious internal reflection about what they're being asked to do, what it means to be a police officer in the first place, because this is the type of banality of evil bullshit where really bad things happen from people just doing their jobs, you know, and it's like, it's really the sick thing that's coming through societies, I feel, globally by, you know, cutting off all of these rights in the name of surviving the virus. I mean, it's pretty intense.
Yeah. I noticed that with the new, they've employed 20,000 or more, probably more, new police, and basically just taking people off the street, whacking them in a uniform, and sending them out. They obey the commander's orders, and they don't really know where the laws come from or how they're formed, or don't. But the ones that they've chosen are the types that would be likely to do anything. They're not people who, like traditionally, the police in Britain were people who wanted to serve their community, and that's the traditional role of policing, isn't it? To keep people safe. So when a burglary or someone's being attacked or disturbed. But now these are the gung-ho type of people who just want to punch someone. They've recruited all of these types of people, or some very, very green young types. The ones that arrested me were very green and young, and basically they didn't know what to do. They kept on turning back to this commander and saying, really? Because they said the commander, recruits, I think they were fresh out that day, or he said, tell her to take this banner down. So they told me to do that, and I was doing that. A knot didn't come undone, and the commander changed it to arrest her now. And they looked at, these two guys turned around to the commander and went like, what the fuck looks on their face? Like, seriously, you just told her to do one thing, now you're telling us to arrest her when she's doing it. And they were shocked, and they were nervous and shocked. But the others that we've seen, especially the women, seem to be really, really brutal. I hate to say that, but I'm non-sexist, so I can say it. These chicks that are out there, they've got some sort of axes to grind or something or other, because they are bitches. They're really, really brutal. Throw you to the ground.
I think a lot of that has to do with being in a man's field and feeling like you have to prove yourself.
Maybe it's that, yeah. Maybe yeah, the sort of big bruiser chicks, with blonde hair and just, sticking the punch in at the side sort of thing, So that, yeah, policing has really changed here in a very short period of time, and in a month it's changed a lot. And
do you think that's something London are willing, and people in the UK, do you think that's something people in the UK are willing to accept? Like here in the US, we've had decades of propaganda glorifying police brutality against civilians. So when our police turn and beat the shit out of people, a lot of people cheer them on, and a lot of people say that's messed up. Do you have something similar like that in the UK? Like, do you have shows like Cops that promote police brutality as a cultural thing? Or is that something that's okay?
No, they don't have shows like that. And there, as I said, the traditional Bobby was the guy, the friendly guy that walked around on the street. They did street patrols just to see if everyone was okay, not to criminalize people. They'd say hello to old Alf up the road and the lady across, They were nice, friendly coppers, and they called them blobbies. And now it's changed. I think people will still expect them to be more like they used to be. But, you know, we get conditioned so easily, don't we, by all of this cruelty and brutality, that people are accepting it, you know, accepting stay at home, accepting total removal of their human rights. Now, this is a silly thing to say, but it's not really that silly. But I think there's so many human rights issues that are going by the wayside with all of these lockdown laws and these new technocrats in power. Like public toilets are not open here. You know, you were allowed to go to the shop. You were allowed. There's hundreds of people walking around this square now, but the public toilets will be shut. You can buy drinks. You can't go into a restaurant, so you can't go to a restaurant toilet. You know. That's a fundamental human right to go and, you know, to need a leak or whatever when you're out. You know?
So it's San Francisco now.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. It'll be like San
You're
Francisco
muted, Steve.
or LA.
You're muted, Steve.
People are just pissed everywhere. You know, I haven't been there, but a friend of mine told me that's what
they have. Space toilets in San Francisco, which are you pay to go into a shit-filled graffiti-streamed shooting gallery. And you're supposed to be able to use the bathroom inside this thing.
They're all.
And that was San Francisco's solution to no one being able to use the bathroom inside city limits for any reason whatsoever. We'll put up a couple of space toilets.
I never saw one of those things open in the last decade that I lived there. They were always out of order. So
no, it always occupied. There's always somebody passed out with a needle sticking out of their arm in them. Like it's one of the tourist attractions of the city is to, you know, spot the junkie falling out of the space toilet.
What enrages me is that there aren't some sort of lesser bureaucrats in the local government administration who put their hand up and say, we have to do all these risk assessments. We have to assess whether we're keeping the public healthy by doing certain rules and regulations. Why don't we say to our council, actually, you need to keep the toilets open so people can wash their hands because you're using COVID as an excuse. Yeah?
I mean, that makes entirely too much sense, though.
If we lived in a world that made sense,
there's
right?
not one bureaucrat that'll say that.
If we lived in a world that made sense, when you walked into a bank, if you saw someone with a mask on, you would walk out of the bank. But now people get mad at you when you're in the bank without a mask on. So the thing I try to remind everyone, like, if everything seems nuts and you don't know what the fuck's happening, just remember that you have to be masked in a bank, and then everything else kind of just makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, they shut down
kids. You
know, you guys, they shut down grocery stores in New Mexico. Grocery stores. Like, what is going on? How are people supposed to survive if they can't go get food? Like, what is happening?
At the hippie store in town, they make you queue. There's only X amount of people that are allowed in the grocery store at the same time. And they've got a line that like wraps all the way around the building into the parking lot. And people are waiting to pay more for food because the label told them it was organic. Like post it up for a fucking hour to go spend $9 on some carrots. Are you kidding me?
Well, it's also very convenient in one town in New Mexico. There's only 4 grocery stores, period, anyway. 2 of them are Walmarts, and those are the only 2 that are now open, and those are also limited capacity. So you have to queue up as well. Like you have to, if it's full, you have to wait, and then when somebody comes out, somebody can go in.
Yeah, there's 4 grocery stores in the entire Santa Cruz Mountains. I'm familiar with that demographic.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's very convenient that it's a Walmart. They're Walmarts now that are open. That's, you know, very corporate friendly, isn't it?
Safeway's open. Safeway is, and they're not making you queue. They're just trying to sell you a $35 top of a Christmas tree that's like this big. I'm not even kidding, man. I'm not. I'm $34.99 for like a 2-foot top of a Doug fir or some shit. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry, noble fur. And because it's noble, that means you can charge almost $20 a foot for it.
I just think it's so weird that we're in a place where, you know, there's this big of a issue going on, let's say, and there's no debate at all. Like everybody's just agrees about it. You know, I mean, that's not odd to anybody that we just like are completely, you know, oh, this person, that's, nope, not going to hear it, not going to hear it, not going to, that's what's weird.
I find it interesting that our government wants to shut us down for a pandemic, but they won't give us health care. What sense does that make? You know, I mean, if
we live in the dumbest
to be
timeline.
healthy, then give people health care.
You got to get them really, really desperate to the point to where John Delaney's idea about being paid to take the jab makes sense.
Yeah.
Because he reiterated that this morning. He went on some Sunday show and reiterated, let's tie the stimulus to the vaccine. And that way we can get, he threw out a ballpark number, 75% of the population vaccinated because they'll be so desperate for the cash that it'll work. And this is like supposed to be benevolent.
And that's fine, but let him say that, you know, to somebody else who's intelligent that disagrees with him. And let's hear a debate about some of these things. And
come at me, John Delaney.
Yeah, Mr. Potato.
Well, the thing to keep in mind, even with a national healthcare system in the UK, they're allowed to break the law for the country's financial benefit. So what's going to happen if there is an actual pandemic and mass sick people, that the health services that's now allowed to legally commit murder decides it's in the economic benefit of the United Kingdom to allow everyone over the age of 60 to just die without treatment? That's what a socialized medical system gets you, is the ability for people with malicious intent to manipulate it at will. So even if we got a system like that, it wouldn't necessarily even be better. It would just enable authoritarianism.
The system is failing now, and it's basically been privatized. And I just let that clock do that death knell. It's like chiming whatever clock it is now, 7 o'clock. Because I thought that toned in with what you were saying, Andrew. Yes, it is the death knell of civilization, the death knell of the health system here.
Is anybody hearing the AC/DC guitar riff in the background?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And they, from the start, they tried to kill old people. Let's face it. You know, and I thought my first reaction when the first lockdown happened was, this is a real estate grab. They want old people's properties. Yeah, that's what I thought. That was like the first thing that came to mind. Because they'd had the do not resuscitate for old people. They put them, you know, in nursing homes. They said no one can go and visit the ones that live by themselves in the homes. And I just thought, okay, they're trying to kill old people. They must want their homes. But as days go on and on and on now, and seeing what a ghost town London is, and I ran into a man the other day. I had to go into his office to get some ID photos taken. And he said he was part of a lawsuit of 370,000 businesses against an insurance company who failed to pay out after the first lockdown, failed to compensate these 370,000 business owners. And so they had taken the insurance company to court and won. And he was watching while I was there, he was watching a live stream of the appeal by the insurance company. I didn't hear the end result, but unfortunately he said to me, most of these businesses, even if they do get compensated now, if they win the appeal, it is too late for them. You know, so we can, you know, it's going to be a massive real estate clearance house, yeah? There's going to be shops and businesses just deserted everywhere. And you know what London's like? It's full of the dirtiest, filthiest money in the world and the most corruption in the world. You know, you can just see smart city everywhere. You know, they've got the tag on it, smart city here, smart city there. You know, Google this, Palantir that. You know, depressing.
It is. Here in the US, we actually there's a company called Yelp that's just like a website like Angie's List, basically just lists small businesses for people. 40% of those businesses closed and are never going to reopen. One round of lockdowns, a few weeks of telling people, nope, you can't come outside, caused that level of devastation. While at the same time, that same lockdown caused people not able to go into a public gallery in Julian's courtroom. It caused almost a week of delay between COVID-19, the tech issues because they couldn't have witnesses appear. So these issues are so interconnected that it's just painful to see I don't know, people just willing to lay down. And that's why I'm so grateful with people like you that are out there right now amongst all of the craziness standing up for Julian.
It's the biggest mindfuck of the century. I can't really give you an answer to that. I know you've all been mindfucked as well. You know, I just it's beyond me. And all we can do is just wake people up, like actually nudging them on the shoulder every one by one. That's the only thing that I can think of doing, you know, because this debate should be a debate that's happening in the mainstream media, on the BBC, on everywhere, all of the news, you know, the main news channels. But it is not. They're not having a debate about anything.
So
no,
true.
they're covering for it. They're helping perpetuate it. They're helping, you know, drum up the fear and, you know, all of those things. And it really does drive home how desperately we need a complete revamp of our media. You know, I don't know how bad it is in the UK compared to the United States, but the United States is horrific. It is all propaganda. I mean, they throw in a little nuggets of, you know, kind of half truths here and there to keep you thinking that they have legitimacy. But it is garbage. All of it. All of our mainstream media is garbage.
It is the same here, and the same in Australia. I can speak for that because I used to work for the evil Murdoch Corporation in Australia. And, you know, the monopolization of ownership, you know, where I think you've got 6 corporations that own all the media in America. In Australia, Murdoch's just, you know, there's about 2 or 3, I think. And in Britain, it's a similar kind of scenario. However, we put out a newspaper for Julian when we were going into the hearing, okay, at the Old Bailey. And we did 2 issues. We're going to do another issue as well. And it was the best thing we've ever done. Put out your own damn newspaper. We got a free press to produce it. I got onto this free press. So it was not for profit. And, you know, so we didn't pay a huge amount. But we were able to give out a 12-page newspaper with colour photographs to people on the street. And we distributed it throughout London, 10,000. Each one run was 10,000 editions. And we're going to do another one for January. And that is really the only way now that you can put the news out and it be truth. And one example of someone else doing that in the UK that just came up recently, a man in Manchester put out a newspaper called The Light. And it was basically most of the material was about anti-lockdown. And do you know that the authorities here are trying to shut that guy down for putting out his own newspaper? They're trying to shut it down.
Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that such an emblematic thing? Like, can't you just point to that over and over and over and be like, this is your state? This is you. Oh man, I would highlight the hell out of that like every single day. They're trying to shut the guy down for making his own newspaper.
Yeah, it lines up perfectly with the place called Speaker's Corner, a traditional soapbox area of Hyde Park where anybody is able to speak. Yeah, where they are pulling people like our friend Wilsey, who's in our group. He got arrested from there for doing a speech.
Literally dragged down.
Dragged down. That's it. First 1 week he started making the speech, he was pushed down the square by out of Hyde Park by a policeman. And he had to walk.
Somebody had video of that and he showed a little bit of it.
The next week he came back and tried to do it, and then they basically dragged him and he was brutally attacked, actually. He was treated very, very badly for making a speech. And then the 3rd week he went back and completed his speech there. He was able to complete the speech. So, yeah, it's just perfectly in line with that. Speaker's Corner is no, you don't have the power to speak anymore. You can't speak. You can't, it's... You know, why isn't China putting this stuff out? You know, we've got to get under China and tell them, you know, like, can you put out some newspapers for us? Can you put some things on the news for us?
Well, we have the Epic Times.
Or Russia.
Oh, God.
I mean, the Epic Times is a Chinese-owned newspaper.
That's a joke. Sorry. It wasn't a very good joke.
No.
Well,
yeah, it's frustrating. Very frustrating.
Ali, it would be so great.
But we are the opposition. We are the only ones that are going to do anything. So we got to keep the power going. Yeah.
100%. Ali, we've had you for around an hour. I don't know what the battery on that phone is doing. You're always such a wonderful conversationalist. We enjoy you when you're on the show. I don't know if you need to get out of here or not. But yeah, I'm really thankful that we could have you with us today. I love seeing people like in the middle of an action.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I don't think she can hear us.
Oh. Did you accidentally hit a mute button?
Oh, she just muted herself.
Huh.
Yeah.
You just muted yourself.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think she can hear us.
Huh.
I think the GCHQ has cut my transmission.
Can you hear us? Yeah.
She
I don't
muted
think she
again.
can hear us. Bummer.
Shoot a message in chat, I guess. Somebody.
I don't know if she'll be able to get it on a phone. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if she'll be able to.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't use that feature very much.
Yeah, I don't either.
Dang it.
Yeah, it's cool that she's now kind of showing us what they're doing. That's nice.
Right?
Yeah.
Dude, I love this shit, though. I really do.
I know. It's cool to be able to talk to somebody in the middle of the street.
Man, it looks colder than shit out there.
Yeah, it does.
Yo.
Kudos to them for being out there, because my ass hates being cold. I would be bitching and moaning. That shit is no
I'm
fun.
gonna be. I mean, shit, dude. We're gonna be in DC at the beginning of January. That's not gonna be beach weather.
Yeah.
I am.
You're gonna need to get yourself a great big coat, dude.
You know what, man? Like this thing right here. This is awesome because it's.
Someone check the chat.
It's fuzzy.
What?
Fuzzy.
Oh. Someone check the Jitsi chat. I heard it pop off.
Oh, Kendra just tried. Yeah, Kendra was trying to.
Allie.
I think they're trying to work on it. She's got people trying to help her, I think.
You have to unmute so we can check to see if we can hear you. But if you can't hear
Okay,
us,
sorry, your volume went right down.
Oh,
So
okay.
I thought
Can you hear us now?
there was some funny business going on.
Can you hear
Put
us?
myself on mute and then just a little walk.
I don't think she can. Can you hear us?
We can hear you okay. Can you hear us?
Still with me?
She probably hit the
Can you
volume.
hear
I
us?
think we can hear us.
I can't hear you guys.
She probably hit the volume down on the phone.
She'll probably just. Can you? Doing it live.
My chat.
I'm sending a message in the chat.
I don't know if that'll work on a phone.
They're running.
I hear running. What? Yeah, I think she must have hit the buttons when.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe she was see this.
Oh, it's kind of light. I can't really read it.
You gotta write it.
Can I read
We're
it?
sending
No.
SOS text messages.
you gotta make it block letters and darker.
This pen is really bad.
You need a
It makes me
Sharpie.
happy to see the little skate punk kids rolling around in the dead ass cold at night, though. That I do love to see that.
I'm gonna have to say goodbye, guys,
All right.
because I can't hear you. And my sound has gone like totally shite. Sorry I didn't bring headphones. So thank you all. Love you all. Keep going, doing the good, keep the good fight going, yeah? Thanks, Joshy. See you, Miss.
Thank you.
See you, Steve. See you, Andrew. See you, Kendra.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Be in touch, yeah? Love yous all.
I love her. So
Right.
great. They're so great. That whole crew is just so great.
Me too.
I like the almost weekly check-in now. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, and look, man, that's something that we should be doing anyway. Kendra and I were talking
yeah.
about this a little bit, like making sure that there's a way to be in touch with the activists that we know and the people that we know in general, because there will come a point when they take the internet away from us. So we're going to have to figure out, especially with our overseas friends, how we're going to be able to communicate with them. And I mean, it's in every single planning scenario.
Dude,
that
we
DH from
we can set up fucking packet radio, old school style BBSs over ham radio and shit.
Okay, so they're criminalizing ham radio too.
Are they?
Yeah,
Wow.
and they're tearing down ham radio towers all over the country. But something about 1,200 ham radio antennas have been taken down over the last 3 years.
Jesus.
So this is something that like we need to get on and become proficient at. Pirate ham radio, didn't think that was going to be a thing, but here we are, and now it's something we have to think about. So for everyone in the chat and for everyone who's watching this, if you are proficient at ham radio or you have a ham radio set up, contact us. We'd love to be able to get a little bit more proficient at that and to learn about, you know, putting up antennas and this and that and the other. So,
oh, dude,
yeah,
I got you covered on that one. My mentor is like the ham radio god.
Nice.
That's great.
Sleepy Josh.
We've been talking about getting a BBS set up in the last couple of weeks, so
it's gonna become a thing. I mean, this is shit that we've been talking about for a couple of years now. And the first time I said something about it, the very next morning, somebody came into the store where I worked and was like, "Yo, I saw your show last night," and specifically pointed to there was a ham radio tower in a little community called Bonnie Doon in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and off of Martin Road, and they like just showed up in the middle of the night and yanked the ham radio antenna. No contacting the property owner, no reason, no nothing, just showed up and removed it. And then when he went and was like, "Hey, what happened to my shit?" he got a letter from the county saying, "Oh yeah, they're a nuisance, they're affecting what did he say? Like they use some like line of sight excuse or some ridiculous thing, distracting to aerial vehicles that could offer protection during a wildfire."
Oh, well, that worked well.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and they waited until after they called it the Martin Fire, where most of Martin Road burned 2 years ago, to be like, "Oh, we should probably take down the antenna."
Nice. Maybe we need to train some carrier pigeons.
You know,
rolling pigeons. That's what we need.
Andrew could train his raccoon.
Need them to fly, Andrew.
Deliver messages.
Better start breeding them raccoons, dude. You're gonna need an army.
Right.
I was trying to suggest to Ron Placone that he befriend and train up the raccoon that he had discovered on his porch, and he was like, "Nah, my cat's not into it."
Possum. I have a raccoon and a possum that visit every night and eat the cat food out there. Little turds.
Yeah. I was up in Mendocino County like a lifetime ago, and I was working on a weed farm, and I had a little, bowl out of cat food because all of the mountain cats would come up to my trailer. I have no idea where this echo is coming from, but I would like it to go away.
I don't think it's from any of us. I don't see it on anyone's mic.
That's super weird. At any rate, maybe I need to turn down.
I think it might be Misty.
At any rate,
I don't hear nothing.
I remember very vividly, like being out in the porch of the little trailer I was staying in, and I would hear like a reach down and scratch the kitty cat that was eating, random feral mountain cat that was eating out of the cat bowl. And I did one time, and I was like, "That's not cat fur," and I looked down, and it was a skunk, and I was like, "Oh, just gonna slowly move my hand over here and stop breathing until this thing goes away." And the little bastard hung out for like 25 minutes, and I'm just like, "Oh God, don't do anything! Don't do anything!" Yeah, that was fun.
Stinky.
Big fun.
Yeah.
So we are at the 10-year anniversary of Cablegate, and I just wanted to say and have a chance to let everybody kind of talk about, before we really get into it, their thoughts about it. Because it was something that we learned in court, that there was supposed to be years of releases planned for this, 80 different countries, that they were going to work with local journalists. And because of people like Luke Harding, and because of the releases that came out and the basically leaks of the leaked information, it wasn't able to be put out in the way that WikiLeaks had originally planned for the releases to go.
Don't forget David Lee.
Yeah, we can't forget David Lee's role in
He
that.
always gets kind of left out of the mix, and we always hark on Luke
Because he's
Harding,
retired and he's faded away into obscurity.
Right.
But
I do love that every time you mention Luke Harding's name, everybody has the same reaction. It's the best. It's the best thing.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Like, dude, he's basically become a noun and a verb at this point.
Yeah.
And I'm all right with that.
Yes.
I am. And almost everybody immediately goes, oh, that's the dude that Aaron Mate made cry.
Yes.
Like
Oh, Aaron.
By asking him to back up the title of his book.
Right. Where's the collusion? That's not like, that's it. That shouldn't be that hard. The title of your book is Collusion.
Hey, Luke,
so when
welcome
somebody
to the
asks
show. The
you,
title of your book is Collusion. Could you please explain the collusion? I'm out of here.
Back in 1984, Donald Trump talked to a guy who knew a guy that went to Russia in 1967. And so that means that Trump is a Russian agent. I mean, that's what?
I don't think dude expected Aaron to read that book.
Aaron didn't read the book.
He did?
No, it was like a very last minute interview. If you watch the interview, he even says, Luke Harding will say, did you even read the book? And Aaron's like, no, I haven't read the whole thing, but I've read parts of it, whatever. And he's like, oh, well, you really just need to read the book then. Obviously, that's where all the evidence of collusion is.
But you can't offer any now?
Right. I mean, you wrote the book, dude. You should be able to recite that shit and like bring up the evidence. And, you know, you're supposed to, like, you wrote a book. Like, I mean, don't you think you should be able to, like, off the top of your head, come up with something, at least something that makes some sense?
So, a friend of my show, Charlie Robinson, one of the people involved with Union of the Unwanted, co-wrote another book with Jeff Berwick called The Controlled Demolition of the American Empire. And he's only a co-author of this book and admits up front that Berwick did most of the heavy lifting on it. And yet, if you ask him to describe the contents of the book, he can seamlessly relate them. Kind of seems like little Lukey there. I mean, you should be able to know what.
I mean, dude, there are books that I had nothing to do with writing that I've just read that I can talk about freely and come up, you know what I mean? Like, I can explain the situation and the evidence and the supporting circumstances and all of those things. And I didn't have anything to do with writing them. I just read the book, you know?
I was pretty good at book reports back in elementary school.
I was an excellent book reporter.
I even got like panned pizzas as a reward out of reading them. Yeah.
The little, not Donato's, Pizza Hut. The little Pizza Hut bookmarks. Yes. Yeah. Totally. That was my jam, dude. That was my jam.
Well, but all of that propaganda, you know, is not without consequence. I saw on Twitter today, old Tony Gonzalez, who I'm not positive actually if he was elected to Congress in Texas. He was. His, you know, comment even that Snowden and Assange are Russian agents. You know?
And he's a Republican. I'm like, dude, are you sure you're not a Democrat? Like, that sounds very Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton.
Well, and then calling, you know, Tulsi Gabbard a turkey, you know, so that's like
she was filled with more than turkey. And first of all, she's a vegan, dude. She's not eating turkey, so she's not even filled with turkey to begin with. So
I don't really though, you know, I mean, that's my part of my, like, to Andrew's question, like, response on Cablegate is it'd just be nice if people, even though it wasn't released how we wanted it to be or whatnot, it'd be nice if people had paid more attention to it. And, you know, we didn't have the people.
You know who did pay a lot of attention to Cablegate was Hillary Rodham Clinton, who immediately called for the incarceration and or extrajudicial murder of Julian Assange for the fact that WikiLeaks had released.
I mean, it was within like hours. She was giving a speech at a podium talking about how attack on American democracy and blah 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 blah. And
we got a clip in that in one of our teaching videos.
I actually have
is by Luke Harding and David Lee, not by WikiLeaks. If it was, then that's who it was by. you know, because they're the ones who released it.
I mean, Cablegate changed the game. Like, that changed everything. It gave people the ability to pull back the curtain on our government and to see what is actually happening and what the kinds of things that they are doing and the kinds of things that they are talking about and plotting and planning and the corruption and the, you know, the backroom deals and all of that stuff. And it really revolutionized, or it should have. I mean, it revolutionized journalism. It should have revolutionized the way that people see their governments. It did for some people, not enough. But I think that
it certainly gave the rest of the world verifiable evidence for what a lot of them had believed without proof, and that is the United States government has undue influence in their government's everyday affairs.
Yes.
And that is earth-shattering, like in and of itself, because for the first time, for example, Khalid al-Masri, like for the first time, you've got concrete proof of the machinations of U.S. intelligence agencies, the diplomatic corps, and the government as an institution exercising extrajudicial leverage on the part of another sovereign government in order to get them to bend to the will of the U.S. empire. Like, that's fucking huge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no other way to describe it. And what happened was an unprecedented smear campaign against both WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. We had news outlets that were running away from WikiLeaks and from Julian faster than their legs could carry them, and certainly faster than they could carry the paper trail of them previously working with WikiLeaks. And wow, dude, like, yeah, no, it changed. It really did change so many things about the way that the media works, about the way the government works, about the way that international relationships work. Yeah, you can't, there's no way that you can deny the significance or impact of what Cablegate did. And
I don't even think we know the full extent of the impact yet. I mean, there are still things coming out that people are finding. And I mean, it's over 250,000 cables. It's a lot of information. And so for years to come, researchers and journalists, if there are any more journalists, you know, in the near future. But people are going to be discovering things from Cablegate that will greatly impact our way of life and our governments and the way that we live for a long time. I mean, it's an immense influence on so many aspects of our lives and our governments. It's kind of insane it's hard to even wrap your head around how significant it is.
So I wanna kick us off here with the first article that we have queued up, the Der Spiegel article, or spiegel.de. And I'll put the link here in the chat for everyone, but I'm going to throw it up on the screen share real quick. Because this article came out as Cablegate was happening. This was literally, I believe it was the day after, or the day of the Cablegate release back in 2010, when all this information was coming out. So such surprises in the annals of the U.S. diplomacy will dominate the headlines in the coming days when the New York Times, London's Guardian, Paris's Le Monde, Madrid's El País, and Spiegel begin spreading light on the treasure trove of secret documents from the State Department. Included are 243,270 diplomatic cables filed by U.S. embassies to the State Department and 8,017 directives that the State Department sent to its diplomatic outposts around the world. In the coming days, the participating media will show a series of investigative stories on how America seeks to steer the world. The development is no less than a political meltdown for American foreign policy. Never before in history has a superpower lost control of such vast amounts of sensitive information, data that can help paint a picture of the foundations upon which U.S. foreign policy is built. Never before has the trust America's partners have in the country been so badly shaken. Now their personal views and policy recommendations have been made public as America's true views of them. So I want to actually scroll down a little bit here so that way we could read through the official White House press release that came out directly after that. As Cablegate was coming out, this is what the White House had officially put out in regards to it. We anticipate the release of what are claimed to be several 100,000 classified State Department cables on Sunday night that detail private diplomatic discussions with foreign governments. But by its very nature, fielding reports to Washington is candid and often incomplete information. It is not an expression of policy, nor does it always shape final policy decisions. Nevertheless, these cables could compromise private discussions with foreign governments and opposition leaders. And when the substance of private conversations is printed on the front pages of the newspapers across the world, it can deeply impact not only U.S. foreign policy interests, but those of our allies and friends around the world. To be clear,
so I want everybody to hear this in Hillary Clinton's voice, because that's who read this out, like in front of the cameras and everything. These became herself's words, and they're like U.S. Holy Writ.
To be clear, such disclosures put at risk our diplomats, intelligence professionals, and people around the world who come to the United States for assistance in promoting democracy and open government. These documents may also include named individuals who in many cases live and work under oppressive regimes and who are trying to create more open and free societies. President Obama supports responsible, accountable, and open government at home and around the world, but this reckless and dangerous action runs counter to that goal. By releasing the stolen and classified documents, WikiLeaks has put at risk not only the cause of human rights, but also the lives and work of these individuals. We condemn in the strongest terms the unauthorized disclosure of classified documents and sensitive national security information.
I wonder what Libya thinks about our version of human rights.
Right?
Or Syria.
Yeah.
Or anywhere, ever. Yeah. I mean, anybody who actually cares about human rights should never live in the United States.
San Francisco.
Yeah, Flint.
Yeah, Flint.
You know, it's fine. Standing Rock, it's fine.
The global South in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
human rights and democracy, eagles and fireworks.
Well, all of the WikiLeaks releases, have that same pattern that the government is saying they're doing one thing. And here's the proof that that is not what they are doing. That they are doing.
And not even that. I mean, some of the stuff that was in Cablegate is just despicable. I mean, from like the Dancing Boys. I don't know if you guys remember that. I think it was DynCorp or whatever. And there's the Afghan officials are telling the U.S. government to, squash all of the coverage in the media about this stuff. And it's literally human trafficking. It's literally a sex ring, and it's like a drug ring and a sex ring, and they're hiring all these underage boys and or not hiring, but they're like trafficking these underage boys. And that's a huge revelation. I mean, especially now looking back on it, now that we have, Epstein and all of that stuff, it's crazy. Like it's not even just, hey, your government said they're doing this and actually they're doing this. It's, hey, your government is covering up sex trafficking, like underage sex trafficking. That's a pretty big deal. It's crazy.
Yeah. Right. Well, and even that whole claim, about it's hindering our ability to fight for human rights, or other people who are fighting for human rights. If you have it in your head that it's okay to squash some people's human rights in order for some greater good plan for everybody to have that's not, that you are on the wrong path. It's the same thing of saying like, well, it's okay sometimes to torture. No, it is not for anybody. And those are some things, those are some cognitive dissonance type things that are going on, I feel, in people's heads that really has to be addressed.
Well, and I think that also it highlights the divide between people who are authoritarians and people who are libertarians. and we've seen kind of this emergence of the authoritarian left outside of, you know, the fake left in the Democratic Party, but like the Democratic Socialists and Rose Twitter and all these people who think that they're like straight up communists, who are like, yeah, fuck free speech. Who needs that? You know? Oh, no, free assembly. Like, why would you need to assemble and protest if you live in a government ran utopia? And it's like, you just want to shake them.
It's really mind-boggling to me. We had an interaction with somebody on Twitter yesterday that very much mirrors this conversation. And it was honestly one of the most, like, my brain literally hurt trying to figure out this person's position, because
the dent in my desk from me slamming my head into it as often as I have over the last like year since I put it here. Like, I've got to move stuff around so I don't break it in half next time. Like it.
And this person was somebody who claimed to be a Julian Assange supporter, but then in the same breath said, no, I don't support dissent and I don't support free speech. What the fuck do you think Julian Assange stands for? That's his whole thing. That's his whole thing, is dissent and free speech. That's it. That's it. That's what he does.
Where the governments that this individual was bitching about are concerned.
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, you can have this authoritarian utopia where to me, it seems mind-boggling that anybody would ever want to give some person or group this, you know, carte blanche power and just, okay, you tell us what to do, and if we can't dissent. And this person was like, yeah, I totally am fine with them enforcing it through force. And so they're fine with, but so it's okay to have your government beat you when you disagree with them, or to kill you, or
state violence, as long as it's not Western state violence.
Yes, that's what they said. Literally,
straight up, word for word. I'm quoting right there. Yeah.
Yes. So authoritarianism is fine, just not Western authoritarianism. That's their problem. Just Western authoritarianism. It's ridiculous. Capitalism is another form of authoritarianism. The United States is an authoritarian
fucking pink fascism, and like, you know, I mean, Jesus, dude.
And the level of contradiction in that person's argument, and it was like talking in circles, and they just kept like the hypocrisy and just like saying one thing and then in the next tweet saying the complete opposite, and then trying to make that make sense. And it was exhausting. And the authoritarian left, I don't know if this person considers themselves left. I don't think we ever really asked them.
No, they said in that thing, I am the authoritarian left.
Oh, the authoritarian left is a problem. They are a danger. Like, they are, I mean, Jesse and I had Fiorella on the other day on Facts on the Ground, and this is something that we talked about. You know, yes, Republicans are terrible. They're shitty. They're horrible. You know, it's something they need to be dealt with. But as a leftist, the person who poses the most risk to me and to really to humanity is the authoritarian left and the people who are gatekeeping progress. And that's the people who stand in the way. I mean, we know who Republicans are. We know that they don't hide it. They put it right out in the open. But then you have people like the Squad pretending to be in favor of all these, you know, bright and shiny, happy things, and they're fooling a lot of people, and that's dangerous.
Well, let's not gloss over the GOP's tendency to advertise that they're about individual liberty, community, and family and God, and then turn around and pass legislation that is evocative, if not outright, corporate fascism. You know, sure. There's no political party where their legislative record matches their marketing.
No. I mean, they claim to be about small government, but they want to decide who you can have sex with and whether or not you can get an abortion. And
the size of government increased tremendously under both George W. Bush and Donald Trump. Donald Trump brought more socialism to the shores of the U.S. than 8 years of Barack Obama. It's just corporate socialism.
Yeah.
The CARES Act is a $5 trillion handout redistribution of wealth, massive redistribution of wealth to the top like 0.1%.
That all of your progressive yes queens voted for, fam.
Without a
Yeah,
roll
and
call.
that far too many of my libertarian right friends voted for. Like in
Yes.
terms of electing Donald Trump, like they thought that they were getting one thing, and then in reality, you've got a guy who not once but 3 times with the tax cuts for billionaires put forth like on right like, with signature after signature after signature, the largest upward redistribution of wealth this country has ever seen 3 times in 4 years. And that is the exact socialism that these people scream about hating every single day. That's corporate socialism, but in no way, shape, or form is it not an intentional redistribution of wealth.
Well, and then
And
we're also
that's
back,
Trump.
but we're also back to the same problem again, you know, which is that, like, why do people not know about that? Well, it's because of the censorship, and it's because our, you know, information is controlled.
And our mainstream media is garbage. They're failing you, people. They are failing you. They're not telling you the truth. They're not telling you the things that you need to know to protect yourself against your government. And you need to protect yourself against your government. Like, that's a necessary thing, especially right now. It has gotten so much worse, and it's going to get way worse under Joe Biden. I mean, people seem to be under this impression that, you know, the censorship's going to get better and the crackdown on protests is going to get better. No, you guys, it's going to get worse. It is going to get so much worse. Joe Biden is going to be I mean, I don't like Donald Trump. He is a piece of shit. There's no question. But Joe Biden is going to be worse. And the reason he's going to be worse is because he's going to be more presentable, and he's going to put on an kind of a face
He's gonna
of
put the mask back on.
yes, and people are going to go back to sleep. People are so relieved to be rid of Trump that they've already convinced themselves that things are going to get better. Like everything's fine now. January 20th, everything is fine, and that could not be further from the truth. And that's very dangerous.
That right now, as of right now, Joe Biden's not the president-elect. The Electoral College hasn't been met. States haven't reported yet. It's not that Donald Trump is mounting a significant or real challenge to a clearly stolen election, because he's not. He's not. He's put fucking cartoons in charge of this.
We got our choice of bread, dude. That, like, as Whitney says.
Yeah.
Sandwich.
Yeah. Well, and what I find amazing too, speaking of the left being just out of their mind, people are talking about this election as if it was, you know, a perfect election and pristine, and we don't have any electoral integrity issues. And you guys, what is going on? Like, people on the left who I thought were, you know, at least relatively intelligent are pretending like this election is unquestionable, and that's insane.
People reported on the fraudulent primary that the Democrats had too.
Well, and if the election took place in the United States of America, it was not a legitimate election. That's just it. That's it. Our elections are never real. And I don't know why we have people on the left pretending like that's not the case. Are you kidding me? Our elections are bullshit. They've always been bullshit. And we now have people on the left acting like everything is fine. And we have election integrity. Everything's great. No problems here. Nothing to see. Move along, folks. And if we don't address, I do not believe in electoral politics, but if you do, and if you think that you're going to reform the system and you don't address election integrity, could you be a bigger moron? Like, what? I mean, why don't you just shoot yourself in both feet? Right. Yes. I mean, it's just unbelievably frustrating that we have this complete disconnect from reality. And people have lost the plot. I mean, I was talking about it yesterday. I'm having more luck with the right and libertarians getting them to support Julian Assange and free speech and free press than I have had in months of trying to go after progressives. And that's depressing as shit.
They're pissed because Nina Turner and Tulsi Gabbard had an adult conversation about the legislation that Gabbard has put forth. And Nina Turner agreed that, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, there should be charges dropped against Julian Assange, and Ed Snowden should get a pardon, and the Espionage Act should definitely be reworked so that it's not solely a political weapon. And you've got people running around going, oh, I can't believe Nina Turner went to the dark side because she had a civil
Because she supports
confrontation
free speech.
with Tulsi Gabbard.
And Tulsi even went a step further, where she went onto Twitter and blasted Donald Trump for not blasted him, but where he was talking about pardoning Manafort.
Yes.
She was like, pardon Julian Assange too, and put out like a dozen different tweets tagging him in it, made an actual video saying like, hey, here, Donald Trump, this is why you should do this. And I thought,
well, and that guy, what's his name, Kendra? The guy that just got elected that we were talking about from Texas. What's his name?
It's Tony Gonzalez.
Tony. So that tweet that he put up too, we now have like Thomas Massey on Twitter defending Tulsi Gabbard and defending the legislation and saying he's proud to co-sponsor it. And it's incredible to see. Like, I haven't been able to get a single progressive elected official to even mention the legislation.
And you never will.
Yeah.
Progressive or no, whatever you think of her, I don't care. That whole argument.
Member of Congress that is not supporting this legislation is derelict in their duty to defend the Constitution, because the Espionage Act has been used to abridge the free press of our free press. That's it. I mean, you cannot prosecute whistleblowers to the extent to where and people are so chilled that they can't, they're not going to even say anything. I mean, that's the thing, is we're already under that. This is our last chance. I mean, if it weren't already bad enough, they wouldn't ever think of prosecuting a publisher. I mean, people that we went through an election cycle, that to me is the most important. And no matter what, it's always an Assange, I feel, litmus test, because we didn't hear about it from Biden. We didn't hear about it, of course, from Trump. And who else we didn't hear about it? Any freaking debate moderator or mainstream news publication interviewing either one of them at any point.
You guys, there's a historic court case on press freedom going on right now, and the media's not covering it. This isn't like, some little ho-hum, city court case on some, small town newspaper that's, printed something that whatever. This is historic. This is a massive deal. And the fact it should make everybody think twice, the fact that nobody's covering it. Just from the fact of this is a story. Like, if you're a journalist, this is a story. I mean, huge, massive, and nobody's talking about it. And that's bizarre. Like, if you just sit and think about the fact that nobody, not one person in mainstream media will mention this court case, given the historical implications and, the potential ramifications moving forward and all of these things. Nobody's talking about it. And that's just really bizarre. It's really, it's creepy. It's like they're pretending it's not happening. And I don't even know what to think about that. It's really, I don't know, frustrating, I guess.
I'm going to say it again. We need new punk rock. I mean, no, I say that as kind of a joke, but like, we need a form of media or a form of art that doesn't exist for the sole purpose of merchandising, and look, Emma Goldman said, I don't want to be a part of any revolution I can't dance at.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take that like a step further, because I've never advocated revolution. A revolution just brings you right back around to where you started. And in most cases, what ends up happening is a different strong man takes over. We don't need a revolution. What we in fact need is ascension. And like, the only way that this is going to happen is on an individual level. People are going to have to commit themselves, not just in the physical space, but in the mental space and in the spiritual space, towards some sort of evolution instead of revolution. Like, it's going to take a complete ascension to be like, no, everything that we've tried failed us miserably. Every time we tried to have a massive centralized authority of one stripe or another, it has failed the people miserably. We can't draw from failures and expect success. I'm done with mystic rambling for today, or at least for the live stream.
I mean, that really is, I mean, this really is, this is it. Like, this is going to set the precedent moving forward. And it's going to be damn near impossible to go back once we've gone down this path. And I mean, we talk about it all the time. Once a right is taken away, you're not getting it back. You're just not. It's so hard. It's nearly impossible. And so if either we fight for free speech or we don't. Either we have a free press or we give it away, because that's what we're doing. We're giving it away. We have the ability right now, at least for now, to fight back. And the fact that people aren't on a bigger scale is, you know, it's really depressing. It's hard for me sometimes to not want to, like, you know, like Steve said, you know, have a head space on my desk where I constantly bang it every day.
Well, and also though, people too have to realize that, and that's the whole point. I mean, that's why we're, you know, doing this, and, you know, everybody's basically has a second full-time job, you know, is because this is the right, the press, the free press, this is the right. You can already see what's happened with just propaganda, but this is the one right, done. You know, that's all the other ones. How are you going to talk about what's going on? How are you going to tell people or get your information out about whatever little thing that you want to do to make the world a better place? You know, if that's not in line with what is approved, guess what? You know, it's not happening.
And they're already doing it. I mean, look at what happens on Facebook and on Twitter. Like, you couldn't even talk about the Ukraine story with Joe Biden. They would take it down. They would take you down. They would lock you out of your account for discussing a sourced story. Mm-hmm. That's insane. And, you know, it's, you know, the stuff that they do on Facebook and Twitter, but it's also the stuff that they do in the media and the way that they don't. I mean, what was it? Jamal Bowman was on CNN and he started talking about Rahm Emanuel and they cut his microphone. What the fuck is that? Like, that's crazy. This is a Congress. He's just been elected to Congress. He's on CNN and they ask him a question and they say he says something they don't like. And so they cut his microphone. That should concern everybody. Yes. And it's not a joke. Like, this has been progressively getting worse for a very long time. And like I said earlier, it's not going to get better under Joe Biden. It is only going to be amplified further. This is a man who represents the people who are on board for this 100%. They're the ones pushing it. And people are living in this fantasy world where Joe Biden makes everything better again. And I mean, Barack Obama just came out a couple weeks ago and said that the internet is a threat to democracy. They're trying to take away your ability to learn and to find information and to educate yourself and to decide for yourself. They want to force feed you information and tell you what to think and what to say and who to know and who to talk to and what information is safe and who to trust. And people are just letting them. They're like being dog walked into this paternalistic nightmare with, you know, their government, and it's insanity.
Well, as we talked about with Clyde Stafford Smith statement, it's learned helplessness. Mm-hmm. It's people just willingly giving over their right to govern themselves because they think they have no other way, and that these are the ways that they get food. This is the way that I get housed. And if I ask questions, I get removed from those things.
Well, we're at the point now where asking serious questions is a treason. Mm-hmm. And once we're at that point, we're living in a fascist state, or a tyrannical state, or a totalitarian state, or an authoritarian. It doesn't really, like, whatever word makes you feel better about it to put in front of it. That's where we are. We're told all this time, and I really want to make this point, and then we can get on to the Trevor Tim article, Andrew, or do whatever it is that we're going to do. But we're told that we have to agree with someone 100% or else they're our enemy. And I would like to call bullshit on that.
Yep.
over and over and over and over and over and over and over.
That's something we talked about with Fiorella again. I'm sorry to bring that up again, but it was a great part of the conversation because I keep getting, I know you guys too, I keep getting called a Nazi collaborator because I'm reaching out to, Donald Trump and his people in his orbit and Republicans and trying to drum up, support. I don't give a fuck what side you're on. This is about saving the future of free speech. I do not care who you are or what. I mean, the QAnon lady, Marjorie Taylor Greene or whatever, she tweeted in support of Assange, and so I retweeted it, and I got shit for that. And I don't give a fuck what she thinks about QAnon. I don't care. Yeah. If she's going to go to battle with me to save press freedom and the future of the First Amendment, then welcome to the team, Marjorie. We can disagree on everything else, but let's go save the First Amendment. In
fact, it should be a point where we don't have to. We better not agree on everything else. Really, honestly, I don't want to deal with automatons or sycophants or what. I don't, dude. It's not productive. I would rather be able to have a healthy debate about ideology or politics or policy or something like that with someone I know agrees that without securing a free press and a free and open internet, we don't get any fucking opportunity to discuss the rest of it because it's all going to be decided for us.
Dude,
and if we speak up about it, we're fucked.
Reverend Annie, if she can do what she fucking did back in the day, we can fucking reach out and work with people we disagree with.
There is nobody on earth that I agree with 100% of the time. I don't even agree with myself 100% of the time. Do you know what I'm saying? There's constantly things where I think one thing, I'm presented with new information, and I'm like, oh, you were fucking wrong, bitch. And so it's fine. I don't care. I don't need you to be lockstep with every thought that I have. I'm okay. I'm a grown-up. I can have a grown-up conversation about a critical issue without needing you to be my best friend and, my brain twin. It's okay. That's okay. It's fine. It's such a bizarre, infantile mindset where, oh, well, you disagree with me on this issue, so I'm never going to work with you on anything ever. It's like, Tucker Carlson's a piece of shit, but when he says something anti-war, I'm going to cheer for Tucker Carlson because I don't like fucking war. And, that I don't know why that's a controversial thing. And I'm really tired of the gatekeeper left pretending. I mean, it's this little circle, this little bubble. And if you don't fit inside the little bubble, then you're a bad person and we can't talk. It's Mean Girls. It's like this high school level bullshit. Grow the fuck up and work with people, have difficult conversations with people you don't agree with, unless you like losing. If losing's your losing's your deal and you're fine with getting shit on and never getting any of the things that you want done, keep it up. You're doing a good job.
They're cutting off their own damn legs. They're not going to get anything they want if they cancel fucking everyone. Who's going to be left? Just them?
Nobody.
They're not going to do shit.
You guys, I'm left as fuck, and I have people on the left canceling me because I reach out to Republicans about Julian Assange.
So there are people that cancel people, and there are people that scream about platforming and shit like that I fully support in moments, in instances. For example, Abby Martin. Mm-hmm. Abby Martin has a lawsuit going with the University of Georgia right now because they kicked her out because of her BDS position. They shouldn't be able to do that. They shouldn't be able to silence and censor and keep off of their premises a documentary filmmaker and journalist because she believes that boycotting, divesting and sanctioning Israel is a necessary step towards de-escalating one of the most violent, openly running an apartheid state, fucking just global terrorists that the state of Israel is. And I openly disagree with Abby Martin on a number of things, but I support this lawsuit and I support her in it because it's the right thing to do. Like, I don't understand why that's hard. Like, I really don't, man. There's people that I clearly do not like, that if they're doing something that I support, I'm going to thank them. I'm going to highlight them. I'm going to offer them a spot on my platform to promote this thing. And then we can disagree on everything else. But it shouldn't be like, it shouldn't be me. It really shouldn't. Like, there should be much more respectable people with that opinion, you know, or at least much more respectable presenting people than me.
Hey, every one of my friends I've sent to the show to watch, I'm like, dude, don't judge a book by its cover. Every time. They're like, who is this fucking dirty hippie?
My superpower is being way smarter than I look. Right. And having a worldview that in no way, shape, or form coincides with my appearance, unless you spend a lot of time in the mountains, and then you'd be like, okay, yeah, I get it.
That makes sense.
All right, we should get to that article.
Are we going to the article, or are we gonna wrap?
It's up to you guys. I don't care. Either way.
The Trevor Tim one isn't super long. The Elizabeth Lee Voss one is pretty massive.
Yeah, honestly,
really, it's just detailing some of the Cablegate releases and sort of the fallout from them or whatever.
Can we just run through the middle section of the Trevor Tim article, where it just lists each of the different nations in the Middle East? Because I think that's the biggest thing out of there. Because this article was written a year and a day after the releases came out, actually. It was written in 2011, November 28th, 2011. As we read through these, I just want people to put in perspective, like, what's changed? Like, we're 10 years out. This article is 9 years old. And what's changed in the Middle East since that time?
The Libya one is super interesting.
I'll throw it up on the chair if someone else can read it.
Okay. You have it up? Okay, go ahead, Kendra.
Where is it?
I just put it up on the screen share.
Okay. Oops, there we go. Okay, so Libya. This past summer, Senator John McCain was the most vocal member of Congress, cheering for more aggressive military action to remove Libya's then leader, Muammar Gaddafi. But a WikiLeaks cable revealed just 2 years earlier, Senator McCain had personally promised to arm Gaddafi with U.S. military equipment. Yet Gaddafi was one of the strongest critics of the WikiLeaks publications. The cables exposed the greed and corruption of his regime, and according to some reports, seemed to drive him crazy. He even accused the CIA of leaking the documents to undermine him.
I just find that super interesting that Senator John McCain, I mean, it's not surprising, but to be playing both sides of that kind of argument, to be, claiming you're going to remove this guy, but then you're also going to arm this guy, and then Gaddafi being pissed off because he was also exposed and everybody hates WikiLeaks,
Yes, but don't kill the messenger, damn it.
Right.
Should I keep going? Pakistan. Long before U.S. forces secretly entered Pakistan to kill Osama bin Laden in August, the cables confirmed the U.S. military was already covertly operating inside the country, a fact that the U.S. government had previously denied for months. Despite public support for the Pakistani government, the cables also showed U.S. diplomats have long thought of the Pakistani intelligence service, the ISI, as a terrorist organization that tacitly supports Al-Qaeda and the Taliban.
And one of the things that came out too in Cablegate is the fact that the U.S. believed that it was in a nuclear standoff with Pakistan as well. That's not highlighted here, but that's one of the things that the leaks actually show us, that was a concern coming out of the State Department.
Somebody else want to read?
I can jump in. So Yemen, one of the first cables released in 2010 confirmed reports of another undeclared military action that the U.S. had previously denied, drone strikes in Yemen. At the same time, the cables detailed the secret deal the Yemeni president made with the U.S. to allow the strikes, which he lied to his people about in the process. When the CIA extrajudicially killed alleged al-Qaeda leader and U.S. citizen Anwar al-Awlaki with a drone in October 2011, the U.S. publicly announced the death but refused to officially release any information about the strike. A cable published by WikiLeaks provided a blueprint for how the attack was carried out.
So interesting little
deal.
Interesting little fact there. I grew up with and am still friends with today one of the members of the fucking strike team that took out al-Awlaki. He's now got severe PTSD, and like there's been a few times where he's reached out to me like, hey, I'd like to come talk about some stuff on your show, and then every time at the last minute he's like, no, I can't do it, I can't. But he's also the guy who told me several times that the U.S. has had a true presence and a covert presence inside Iran since at least 2005 and continues to this day to have an illegal, disruptive, covert presence inside Iran. Just some weird shit from, my world. Like his dad. I remember his dad being like overjoyed and his dad is a preacher, by the way. So this preacher was overjoyed that his son was able to take the life of someone that his dad considered to be a bad guy, and still went to church that day to like boast about it. Like I don't know, dude. It's a cartoon.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to Egypt. Do you have it back up there, Andrew?
Yeah, I have it up.
Okay, so during the Egyptian revolution, the cables gave the rest of the world a stark and unflinching look at the brutality of Mubarak and his regime, facts of which Egyptians were already well aware. The cables painted a vivid picture of the U.S.'s close ties with the regime, but also confirmed to the international community that police brutality in Egypt was routine and pervasive, and that the use of torture was so widespread that the Egyptian government had stopped denying it exists. That sounds familiar.
Right? I wonder if the Egyptian government produced a torture report that was redacted down to like 1% of readable material.
Right. Steve, do you want to jump in and do the last two?
Sure, I'll hop in. Right. Tunisia. The cables have been credited with directly influencing what came to be known as the Jasmine Revolution. In the early stages of mass political protests in Tunisia, Nawat, the influential Tunisian blogging group, set up a website called TunaLeaks, which is just ironic, and widely distributed the cables to the Tunisian citizens. The cables confirmed that the U.S. viewed Tunisian President Ben Ali as a corrupt and brutal tyrant, and fanned the flames of the already smoldering revolution. Amnesty International would credit WikiLeaks and its media partners as catalysts in the people's successful ouster of Ali.
Well, that was the beginning, right? In Tunisia, that was pretty much what started off Arab Spring, correct?
Yeah, yes. Absolutely. Yes. And while we're at it,
to WikiLeaks.
While we're at it here for a minute, huge credit goes to Anonymous, who kept the internet going, both in Tunisia and in Egypt when their governments had shut down the internet. Yes. And citizens had like no way to communicate, immediate information on a mass scale. A number of Anons, including our good friend Commander X, were, and he's bragged about this, so I'm not telling stories out of school. his own admission. He was part of the crew that helped make it so that these people could communicate with each other. So once again, man, thank you to the Anons who took part in that. And we need you now more than ever. Iraq. In what may turn out to be WikiLeaks' most lasting legacy, CNN reported a month ago that a WikiLeaks cable played a role in expediting the return of all U.S. troops from Iraq and ending the decade-long war. Isn't this so, in retrospect, just a painful passage to read?
Yes.
Negotiations to keep U.S. troops in Iraq longer than the original 2011 deadline were strained when WikiLeaks released a cable showing the U.S. tried to cover up an incident where soldiers knowingly killed innocent women and children in Iraq. Iraqi negotiators indicated the cable gave them excuse to refuse to extend the troop presence. This, of course, only scratches the surface, as the cables have shed light on almost every major foreign policy story of 2011. In April, the Atlantic Wire reported that nearly half of 2011's New York Times issues relied on WikiLeaks documents. That is something that everyone is going to want to go screenshot and share on their social media.
How things have changed.
And while all of the cables have now been released, the impact is still reverberating. Zimbabwe's notorious dictator Robert Mugabe may be the next to feel the effects. The BBC recently reported that WikiLeaks revelations may force him to step down from power, a notion that was previously unthinkable. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Stop your screen share there.
I got it.
All right. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not a fan of war crimes, then you should probably support WikiLeaks, because just the things that they brought to light and gave us the ability to know is, like I said before, it's impossible to wrap your mind around. It's unfortunate that it hasn't been taken more seriously and more action to hold those responsible for committing these atrocities hasn't been taken. But it's a big deal. I mean, like the one in Iraq, showing that soldiers were killing women and children. I'm sorry, do you want your military going around the world killing innocent women and children for fun, like for sport? Because that's what it is. It really is a game to them. I mean, we saw that in the collateral murder video. It's like a video game. That's how they speak about it. That's how they talk about it. That's how they interact while they're in the process of murdering people.
Well, and they also, these are people too who come in, who go into the military with the idea of fighting for our freedoms so that we can have them at home, which are now being, gotten rid of, our free press. I mean, that's why a lot of people died and, we're in the military in the first place, to then have some of those people who, I'm sorry, those are people that are brave, that are willing to sacrifice, willing to do things like that. And then you put them in this system that's actually really doing these things and not fighting for freedom. And I have a big problem with that, because I do support our military, and that makes me incredibly angry. And I think, Misty, to your point, we do have that time to wake people up now, like you're doing, and going over those boundaries and showing people by example, like, hey, I'm fine. You want to call me that? Fine. And I think that, props to you and everybody else who is doing that on the left, because do you know what I mean? I think that's wonderful. I think that's how we will get people awake to this stuff.
I in no way, shape, or form support the U.S. military, but I will fucking exhaust myself to support veterans.
Yeah.
I don't support the military, but I do feel a sense of sympathy for those who, like Kendra said, they think that they're joining this great institution that protects American freedom. I mean, we've talked about this before. People in this country are propagandized from birth to think that the United States is great and that we're the speaking on the hill of democracy. And so people join the military with good intentions. And a lot of my heart breaks for those people because they are then fed into this system of corruption and greed and murder and war crimes. And that has to be a giant mind fuck. And I mean, we've spoken to, like Danny Surgeon or, like even Mike Preisner, people who come out of the military and then recognize what they actually participated in. That has to be unbelievably damaging. And so I don't support our military, but I support the people serving in it, in that I feel like they have been used, they've been propagandized, and they're victims. They're every bit the victim.
If you ask any random enlisted individual who's the biggest scumbag you've ever met in your life, to a person, they will say, my fucking recruiter.
Yeah.
Shout out to Fortress on a Hill. I highly recommend people.
Yeah, big shout out to Fortress on the Hill and to Adam Kokesh and Adam versus the Man. And Everett, Mike Preisner, and all those guys.
Eyes Left Pod is quite good too. That's Preisner's deal.
They're the ones that we need to be listening to in terms of how we how we should view not just the military as an institution, but as the businesses that profit through the exploitation of our troops. And if we're talking about like altruistic reasons for joining the military, that's few and far between. 9 times out of 10, it's because recruiters open up offices in low-income areas, and it's what's called the poverty draft.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, we can get you out of this shithole. We can get you into college. We can give you a job. We can give you training. We can give you a whole life that you never imagined.
On some real shit, the state of Ohio, if you are a failing college or high school senior, you can enlist in the military and get your high school diploma. No matter what your grades are, no matter what, if you are failing in high school in the state of Ohio now, you can go enlist in the military and you get your degree.
That was a program that they started in about 2005.
Yeah, it just passed here in Ohio. It wasn't previously here.
Recruitment for the military plummeted between 2003 and 2005. And there was like a legitimate, small but legitimate anti-war presence. So the military relaxed a ton of its rules in terms of who could now be a soldier. And they were directly recruiting out of jails. A good friend of mine. I'm not going to say his name because he's not here to let me know if I can or not. But a very good friend of mine was one of those, okay, well, you can go to prison or you can join the army. And he said 70% of his entire unit had been given that offer. So they lowered the standards on their psych tests, on their intelligence tests, relaxed their rules on whether or not felons could be admitted into the military. And is anyone surprised then that people are murdering women and children, acting like it's a fucking video game?
The U.S. military is the biggest socialist death engine in the world.
Yep. The only jobs program in America and the #1 state sponsor of global terrorism.
Yes.
You want single payer health care? Just become a veteran. And then it's not even fucking good.
Yeah.
They just load you up with pills and send you on your way.
Join the military. If you
and Seth, I mean, like, I do know people that join the military for altruistic reasons. The kid I was just talking about, who can't even bring himself to think about what he did without breaking down. Like, he joined for altruistic reasons, and I think it hits those people the hardest. Like, if you've got a vision of what a soldier is, or what the U.S. military, if you bought into that, we're a force for good in the world. Shit. If you bought into that and then spent, several months getting stripped of your humanity and identity, and being told that you are no longer a person, you are part of a machine. And it's your job to make sure that the part that you play, you know, it rolls without a hitch, but you're not an individual, you're a soldier. And then you get told what to do, and what you get told to do is go fucking murder these kids or go fucking blow up this hospital. The reality of what you've become is going to basically destroy you. And that's what sucks about so many of these, like the online anti-war left, is that they've got no respect for the people who have been destroyed by this machine. They've got no time for a fucking PTSD vet. There's got no place in their world. And I seriously, dude, like, you guys don't even know. Like, I spend a significant amount of time on a monthly average, like, in person, talking to a number of fucking Iraq and Afghanistan war vets who, like, I'm their only civilian contact. I'm the only civilian that they'll talk to, you know, and it's fucking heart-wrenching, dude. It is. But if we don't do that, we don't find a link and a way to communicate with people who have already been through the shit, they're going to be nowhere when we actually need them.
If they're even alive. I mean,
yeah,
let's be real.
No, I mean, like, I've got a fucking check-in list with people who I'll call just, or text even. Hey, you still there? Yeah. Okay, good. Call me if you need anything.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking what that this military system pumps out, man. It's just, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it really is.
And on that happy note,
I would like to thank everybody for joining us for this wonderful episode of the Free
Fucking
Assange
Jazz
Vigil.
Andrew.
You can find all of us on Twitter. You can find our group action_4 Assange. We do have a GoFundMe. We are going back to Washington, D.C. Join us January 3rd and 4th outside the British Embassy. I look forward to having everybody there. If you cannot donate, which right now the world's fucked, so please just share the link on social media if you can. That makes a lot bigger difference than everybody knows. And again, I would like to thank my co-hosts. I would like to thank Ali and the London crew for joining us. And I am just super, super excited to get everything moving forward with all this.
Thanks, Andrew. My name is Kendra Christian, and you can find me on Twitter at edebs13, and you can find Denver Free Assange at DNB Free JA. If you are in Colorado, we have 2 events coming up in December. One will be in Denver on December 10th on Human Rights Day. And then the next one will be that Saturday, December 12th up in Boulder. So if you're in either city, come and join us. You know, we're going to be spread out with signs and making noise, and we hope to see a bunch of people there.
And I am Misty Winston. You can find me on Twitter at Sarcasm Stardust. I also have another show called Facts on the Ground with my friend Jesse Zerwell. And like I mentioned a couple of times, we got to talk to Fiorella Isabel from Condo Couch this past week, and it was so much fun. I seriously could have talked to her for hours. I had like notes like out the wazoo, and she only had like about an hour, so we could only get to so much, but it was so much fun. But yeah, I want to thank my co-hosts, obviously everybody in the chat. You guys are amazing, and a huge thank you to Ali for letting me talk to Eric. Seriously made my week. I love him so much. He's my favorite activist of all time, I think. So yeah, I think that's it. So just thanks, guys.
Before Steve goes, I do want to let everybody know I'm going to throw a link in the chat. The DEA campaign did an awesome piece on Cablegate earlier. So I'm going to just put that in there for everybody, and I definitely recommend going and checking it out and sharing it.
And we have absolutely not mentioned this like at all throughout the show, but we do have a GoFundMe that we launched last. God, we're horrible at this.
He just did though.
Andrew did it.
Yeah, no, I mean like once. Yeah.
He did at the beginning too. I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
You know.
Way to go, Andrew.
Yeah, no, I did. I shouted out at the beginning.
You put the
too.
link in there, I think.
Yeah.
But we are trying to get back to Washington D.C. January 3rd and 4th to hold some what we plan on being, high impact actions. So if you can, you donate to the GoFundMe. If you can't, please share the link because it really, really does help. We saw that very clearly when we were gearing up for the September hearings. Just the amount of eyes that got on that one were incredible, and we're very, very thankful to everyone who did make it so that we could go do that. And yeah, it's just we need your support again for a significantly smaller amount of money. So hopefully we can get that going. My name's Steve Poikin, and I host a show called Slow News Day, which you should be watching on the Rockfin because that's where I'll be when they kick me off of YouTube. But if you're looking for it on YouTube, type in Slow News Day podcast. I have hands down the best conversations that take place on the internet during the time that we're live. Yesterday, Whitney Webb was back on the show. It was absolutely incredible. Please go watch that. Tomorrow we'll be joined by Morgan Archikina from Sputnik News, and it is always a just incredible conversation with Morgan. We are going to take a spiked baseball bat to the career of Dianne Feinstein. And we are going to take what's left of that spiked baseball bat to Elon Musk. So it's going to be an incredible hour or two tomorrow. Make sure that you're there for that. You can follow me on Twitter at Slow News Day Show. slownewsdayshow.com website. It's got our entire archive and most of the vigils. There will be more content coming up on there soon. What else am I forgetting? We have a Discord for Slow News Day now. We do. You should.
Someone's saying the GoFundMe is paused or something.
Huh?
Someone's saying in chat that GoFundMe's got paused or something.
It should be. It's still up, and I haven't got a notification about it. You can still go in and hit donate.
There's been a couple of people who told me the exact same thing too, and you were like, "No, it's okay. I can see it."
Yeah, no, I'm looking at it. I can donate to it right now.
I don't know if your ability as the person who put it up,
I'll go look
to see it has anything to do with the public at large being.
I'm not signed into GoFundMe right now, so it may just be individual people. If you run into that, please screenshot and send it to us, because it may just be on a person by person basis where they say, "Oh no, you can't donate."
What's the email address?
Try it through a private window and see what happens.
What's the email address, Andrew?
Just info@actionforassange.com.
And big thanks to Allie and the London crew. That was awesome. I really, really do hope that ends up with us having a conversation with former Ambassador Peter Ford or Catherine Gunn. Can you imagine? Oh my God, that would be freaking amazing.
That would be really amazing.
Absolutely amazing. Big thanks to everyone in the chat, to my co-hosts, to Sleepy Josh on the ones and twos. I love you guys. And come hang out tomorrow. Spend some time with us and with Morgan. Good luck to us all.